Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. In this presentation, we'll be pitching the use of process mining to streamline transactional services. My name is Jacques Tretier, and I'll be co-presenting with my colleague, Kavya Miller, today. First, let's start by defining the challenge. The Government of Canada has complex and opaque processes. Citizens often don't have visibility into the status of the services they request, and managers want to optimize their processes. Fortunately, the Government of Canada is sitting on a gold mine of transactional data and its existing information systems that can be process mined. And mining these processes can lead to insights that solve some of our biggest service delivery challenges. And so for our challenge, we'll be looking to demonstrate a process mining framework by applying it to passport and immigration data. But first, let's start by explaining what process mining is. Process mining is a family of techniques at the intersection of data science and process science. It provides a window into your processes almost like an X-ray for processes, and we do that by generating process maps derived from event logs. So what's an event log? An event log can be thought of as an audit log or a trace of activities from the time a service is requested to the time it is delivered. This data lives inside existing systems like your SAP or Oracle ERP or a Microsoft Dynamics case management system. Using data from these information systems, we can extract the timestamps and digital footprints to generate process maps and simulations like the one on my right. And what we often find is that the way a process is executed doesn't match our expectations. We know that similar divisions and even staff in the same division often execute processes in a slightly different manner while still delivering the same outcome. And so we need to discover the happy path that leads to the most effective service outcomes. Because in the ugliest of scenarios, we get spaghetti diagrams like the one on the bottom left, where the process has no structure. And I also like to point out this image on my right as another example of expectations versus reality. You'll see here that a walkway was built one way, but over time, people walking through the park took a shortcut, and in hindsight, the planners should have built the walkway along the beaten path. It's a similar concept in process mining. We design processes with the expectation that it works one way, and once we put them into production, we rarely look back to see if they're being executed as planned. So who could benefit from this? Perhaps passport and immigration services, or even pilot certifications. But the reality is process mining technology works. While working with my colleague Kavya Miller at Transport Canada, we conducted several proof of concepts to illustrate this. I'll pass it over to her now to highlight two successful case studies from our work. Over to you, Kavya.
Thanks, Jacques. Transport Canada is one of the departments that emerged as a beacon of success in harnessing process mining. In fall 2021, Transport Canada piloted process mining, uncovering valuable insights that paved the way for improved efficiency and decision making. Among the 4 processes scrutinized, 2 stood out prominently for their impact and potential benefits. Personal security screening is one of the processes that we actually mined. So, a bit of background about this process. The Government of Canada processes tens of thousands of personal security screening transactions every year. As a condition of employment, public servants working for the Government of Canada must undergo a security screening process. This rule also applies to contractors and third parties handling sensitive information on behalf of Government of Canada. During the COVID-19 pandemic, TC implemented a new security screening platform, including an online web-based portal for new prospective employees to complete the security screening applications. The system recorded key events throughout the lifecycle of a case at an adequate level of abstraction. To gauge the effectiveness of this solution, process mining project was initiated. By analyzing the data, it became evident that certain inefficiencies were hindering the process. One notable discovery was the prevalence of event loops, which negatively affected the processing time. When the process begins, applicants are sent out email invites to register to the portal to complete the application. In a few instances, the email invitation had to be resent, and this could be due to applicant not having received the initial email, or the email have gone into their junk mail folder. In the middle of the process, another event loop was noticed when the hiring managers must verify the ID documents of a prospective employee that was supplied in their application. Another notable discovery was that nearly 45% of security screening applications required amendments after initial submission. By referring to the system's database, we were able to identify the key issues with data validation. Additionally, a bottleneck was identified towards the end of the clearance process, where managers were obligated to schedule security briefing calls with prospective employees, resulting in 7-day delay. To mitigate this, a forward-thinking recommendation was put forth, replacing the traditional briefing with a non-proctored video briefing accessible through the applicant portal. So this strategic shift not only expedited the process, but also yielded tangible benefits, freeing up managers from the time-consuming task and generating annual savings of $30,000. To address the data validation issues, user interface enhancements were made, leading to an 8% increase in acceptance rates, a significant improvement indeed. With the implementation of daily reminders to applicants and hiring managers to complete their outstanding tasks, we successfully shaved off 8.5 days for processing time. In other words, processing of an application came down to 22.4 days from 30.9 days. So with the success of mining personal security screening process, TC scaled up process mining practice to analyze finance accounts payable, also called as procure to pay process. So in the last few years, TC has faced challenges with its accounts payable process, leading to delays in processing vendor invoices and incurring unnecessary interest penalties. Through process mining, it was validated that the current system where invoices are submitted via email to individual administrators proved to be inefficient and prone to bottlenecks, particularly when administrators are unavailable due to vacations or staff turnover. To address this issue and streamline operations, several recommendations were put forth. Firstly, centralizing invoice processing by establishing a generic mailbox could mitigate the dependency on individual administrators and ensure timely handling of payment requests. Additionally, implementing reminders as short-term solution could help mitigate late processing of invoices by prompting administrators and managers to prioritize any pending tasks. This simple yet effective measure could significantly improve the overall workflow and prevent unnecessary financial losses due to late penalties. Furthermore, the recommendation to implement intelligent document processing (IDP) presents a long-term solution with substantial cost-saving potential. By leveraging automation and machine learning algorithms, IDP could optimize invoice processing, reduce manual intervention, and associated costs. It is estimated that implementing IDP could lead to annual savings of approximately $150,000 for the department, which is pretty huge. So what's a value proposition? So in our endeavor, we stand poised at the intersection of innovation and efficiency, forging a path illuminated by the expertise of Transport Canada in process mining. Our mission is to harness the power of this knowledge to meticulously mine immigration and passport services once we've gained access to their data, crafting a blueprint for streamlined operations. We pioneer a groundbreaking process mining framework tailored specifically for the diverse needs of Government of Canada departments. Through data-driven insights, we empower decision makers to optimize processes and drive operational excellence to unprecedented levels. But our vision extends beyond mere optimization. We aspire to establish the Government of Canada Process Mining Center of Excellence, a hub where innovation flourishes, best practices are shared, and excellence becomes the norm across all departments. So what are the immediate benefits with process mining? By analyzing event log data, process mining helps provide insights into the sequence of activities within a process, which in turn fosters transparency. With process mining, one can zero in on bottlenecks, deviations, and inefficiencies. It helps pinpoint areas for improvement. Process mining helps streamline services by identifying automation opportunities. On implementing these opportunities, departments can drive down the cost of service delivery and thereby increasing operational efficiency. Process mining helps organizations ensure compliance with regulations and standards by providing visibility into process adherence and identifying potential compliance issues. It also helps uncover variations in processes applied to different groups. It helps to mitigate biases and ensure equitable treatment across all demographics, fostering inclusivity and social responsibility. And the long-term benefits. So with process mining, through the analysis of historical process data, it can also enable predictive analytics, allowing organizations to forecast future process behavior, anticipate any potential issues, and proactively implement measures to prevent them. Process mining empowers organizations to understand, optimize, and continuously improve their client service processes. It helps accelerate digital transformation and ultimately leading to happier clients and stronger relationships. Implementing process mining will lead to positive and measurable outcomes in digital service delivery that ultimately lead to increased trust.
1 minute to go.
Thanks. In closing, we would like to mention that process mining stands as a beacon of efficiency and transparency within governmental operations. As department continues to navigate the complexities of the digital age, process mining remains an invaluable tool for shaping a more agile, accountable, and responsive public sector. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you, and good on your timings. Thank you so much. I must admit, I thought I might struggle to understand this one looking at the title, but I found that really interesting, and I think that image of the forest and the beaten track image was really, really helpful at the beginning. Thank you very much to Team 1. Judges, I am coming over to you for your questions. And let's see, Elise, we'll start with you on this one.
Thank you, Siobhan. Thank you, team. That was a great presentation. Likewise, I really like that sidewalk and the walk path. I think it's always a great image. Listen, you obviously pitching the idea, so we're talking about how fantastic it is. I'd like you to talk to me a little bit about the challenges that you see, and I'm thinking the people aspect of this and the cultural aspect of it. You also maybe highlight some of the scale. How do you see this scaling beyond one department? I think the two processes that you've picked were things that are done in every department. And at least for the first one, I can attest that security transfer is always a pain point in staffing process. So that's where I'd like to hear a little bit more from you guys.
Kavya, do you want me to grab this or?
Yeah, go ahead, Jacques. Yeah.
Okay, feel free to add anything else that I might have missed. I think to go to the first point about challenges, one of them is obviously data access. It's not always easy to get access to the data and also convince the business or process owners to give us the keys to that data. We've encountered that at Transport Canada, and we've learned along the way on as to how to overcome some of those obstacles. For example, we make it very clear, especially when you're going into systems with personally identifiable information. We make it very clear that, we're not looking for that personal information. We're really looking for 3 columns out of a database table. We want to know a timestamp, an activity, and the case ID or the unique identifier for that transaction. And when we sort of scope it down that way, we tend to get a little bit more, like the comfort level seems to raise. And there's other ways, we can anonymize the data. We can remove unique identifiers so that we're not able to trace back specific instances of a process back to, who it was delivered for. So there are ways to mitigate this and overcome this. And really the challenge is access and even departments getting used to this idea of making it available and having it in consumable format. We know, for example, the Ottawa Hospital, they actually make anonymized data available for research purposes. Anyone can tap into it. They sort of pre-scrub it beforehand so that other different parties can consume it and use it. And I think long term, I think that's something obviously that the government of Canada needs to do. But yeah, we do acknowledge that there are obstacles from different fronts. In terms of scaling this, procure to pay, yeah, it's a common one in every department. Clearances, we at Transport, we were working on an overall onboarding and offboarding process that would go beyond just the security screening aspect. Like security screening is a small portion of overall HR onboarding and offboarding. And I think really where I think process mining shines is in the public service delivery aspect, where we saw numerous services in the news for better or worse over the pandemic. And I think what we're trying to do here is make sure that we have additional ways to look at how to mitigate these types of crises in the future so that we're not, hopefully we don't end up in the news for the wrong reasons.
Thanks, Jacques. I don't know who was, Jacques, was it you sharing your screen? You might want to stop sharing just so we can see all of the team members. That would be
absolutely
great. Thank you. That's fantastic. Did anyone else want to come in on that question? If not, I'll go to the next judge. No? Let's go over to Wesley. Did you have a question?
Sure. Thank you very much. Really interesting presentation. As I'm sitting through this, I'm thinking, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, the big thing was lean processes, and I heard him. So I'm curious, what are the links with lean processes? You talked about ML, machine learning, and data science. I'm not quite sure I see the links where we're using any sort of machine learning. And one question that may be a little bit out there: are there any links with digital twins? You can process map, turn it into a digital twin, then you can do all kinds of stuff in terms of what if scenarios. I guess my last point too, also, in my mind, the most important thing this is good to identify bottlenecks. Then the next step is clearing them up. And that could be a bigger challenge than just process mapping. Thank you.
Who wanted to take that one? And also feel free, all members of the team, to put your cameras on now if you would like to.
Jacques, did you want to take that?
Sure. I mean, there's definitely links with Lean and Six Sigma. There's no question there. One of the things I like to tell when we've been going around and sort of socializing this idea and this discipline is, you can come in, you can bring in groups like KPMG or any of the other big four to come in and interview a bunch of people, and it's very costly and it takes a lot of time. Whereas this, the data might actually be sitting in your existing systems and it might provide a more objective view. It's not to say that one way is better or wrong. I like to look at, the traditional interview style as sort of the qualitative approach, and the process mining approach is more the quantitative approach. The ties to ML, I mean, there is work being done on predictive process mining and being able to do things like clustering. So, for example, let's say you've got cases that are handled, like let's say you've got services that are handled in different ways, and maybe there's a way to cluster them where there's like 10 different common ways that a transaction is processed. You can use clustering to break them up and then see like what the common paths are that are handled for service delivery. There's other aspects to that for sure. There's no, in terms of what we're doing today, there's no immediate linkages to ML right now. It was more to show what we were able to do with intelligent document, or what could be done with intelligent document processing once we found the insights on the P2P process. It is more than just a one-time thing. Like the vision really would be continuous process mining, where once you've got this set up along with the data pipelines, like the same way that you look at a Power BI dashboard, you could look at this and say, how are my processes performing, week over week, quarter over quarter, whatever your time frame is. So yeah, and I know you had a last question, so I know there's a couple there. No? Does that answer it? Okay.
Thanks. And Julie, I think Julie had a question. Did you want to come in, Julie?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I had two questions. One of them was, are you planning to also have some experts advise you on the processes? Because certain steps in a process are also explained. So that part I wasn't clear from the presentation. By the way, it was very clear. I liked how you use images and graphs to make us understand anyway from someone like me who's not an expert. The other point is more common. I think the fact that you're focusing on processes is an advantage in this field because you're not looking at decision-making steps. You're trying to lean process. And I think that's something you may want to surface in anything you want to discuss, because right now there's an ethics perspective in government services. If you ask to rely on tools like this to do that. So to me, that's an advantage that you may want to also put forward. So one comment, one question. Merci.
Who would
Jacques,
like
do you
to
want me
take
to?
Yeah, go
Do you
for it,
want me
Peter.
to? Yeah, so one of the reasons that IRCC has become a target for us is because there's three members of our team, Brad, Dorn, and myself, who are IRCC employees. So we will be able to sort of provide that context in some of the processes that we have. We also have connections where even if it's not specifically what we work on, it's something that we can find the person who can help us answer those kinds of questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Julie, did you say you had another? Oh, sorry, Kavya, you come in.
Sorry, I also wanted to add that process owners are involved at the early phase of the process, and as well as towards the end of the process, once we are ready to really showcase the findings, once the process map has been derived by the process mining tool, we would actually sit down with the process owners and actually review the process map with the process owners to make sure the model that the tool has generated is in sync. Like basically, it's what the process is doing. Or if there is any deviation, the process owners really help us out there, to find out any deviations or any complaint issues. So process owners are involved at the early phase as well as towards the end. Yes.
And Jacques, you wanted to come in.
Yeah, I just want to add that. So part of the reason or where this started as well is both myself and Kavya were master's graduates at the University of Ottawa, and we've got linkages to the Faculty of Engineering there. We're actually publishing papers on our work right now. And we do tap into that expertise regularly. And we've been hiring students when we were piloting this at Transport in the same programs that we took to come and work with us on this. And one of the benefits is that the professors working with us sort of gave us free consulting, right? So we've got a kind of a good network assembled here to support us in seeing this through. And we're they're interested in helping us with the framework aspect as well, because they see a need for it.
Thanks, Jack. So we still have up to 5 minutes to go. Dominic or Gabrielle?
Yeah, so thanks very much. I'll jump in as Gabrielle here. Excuse me. So just so that I'm absolutely clear, because Elise had jumped in and talked about your two use case examples of the security screening and the accounts payable. But your proposition, your value proposition pieces spoke to the passport process. And so I just want to make sure that I'm absolutely clear, because there was a lot to absorb. And so I don't want to be misunderstanding. So you've got building blocks from the screening and the accounts payable side, and you're wanting to use those within a passport process mining context.
That's right.
correct?
We want to leverage our expertise to apply. Like everything we've done so far has been at transport, but we're very curious to see how do we apply this in a different department, right? Because transport's only one of many. And if we're going to build a framework out of this and try to build a kit, the value prop is to build a framework or something that's a starting point for other departments to adopt this. And in the ultimate scenario, we'd obviously, we're biased, but we'd love to do this full time for the entirety of government. So if we see enough value in it and we want to build a team around it, that's certainly something that we would aim for, as well as the sort of stretch goal, if you will.
Right, and actually that leads me to my second question, which is about that. In your value prop slide, you had the PM framework, and I think that that's really interesting, and I think it would be one thing to unpack that a little bit. So in that framework, and you talk to the linkages with universities and subject matter experts in that space, the data perspectives, you've got case ID, timestamp, and status.
Yep.
Are you finding that that's sufficient enough information to be able to understand current and sort of future lean, if we use that term here, process mapping information, or are you seeking other pieces, and is that how you're trying to build that framework? I'm just trying to understand how you're using that data to inform your framework. Thanks.
It's the bare minimum, and it is sufficient. Like everything we've done so far has only been with those 3 columns, and I think we've yielded substantial value. Obviously, the more columns or additional data you get, the more filtering you can do and look at it from different viewpoints. It's always helpful, and certainly as we work in this context with passport and immigration, if they're willing to share other complementary data that doesn't impact privacy, we would welcome that. But the 3 columns is enough.
And just to say, Peter, you wanted to come in, and then I want to make sure
Peter.
Dominic has a chance if he's got a question as well.
No, I'll be quick. I think that there's 2 traditional pieces. One is the scale. I think IRCC processes are gigantic, and so you get a lot more value for your investment if you are able to point out even just one thing that affects. We do 5 million passports a year, 1 million study permits. That's where we're looking to start. I mean, if you can do something that improves, even just 10% of those applications, it's a really big bang for your buck. And just one other thing, just with the IRCC, many of our processes have a family relationship component where families have to move together in what we do. And so that one-to-many piece is something that we're exploring. We're trying to figure out how you do that when you have that interdependency of processes across a family. Over. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. And Dominic, did you have a final question?
Yes, I've got one. Thank you. So thank you for the presentation. I'm personally completely passionate about process improvement. And so this does scratch an itch for me. I like the choice too of the passport example. I think it's a good one, one external facing, but also gives us some good indication of how it can be used internally. But like the potential impacts outside to Canadians is massive. One of the things with this type of work that can be a challenge, I know you didn't raise it earlier, but it's understanding who the owner of the processes are. And sometimes it's not just one, sometimes it's a shared accountability, which makes it difficult. And so I'm going to frame this in the form of a question. I understand one of the artifacts of your initiative will be to produce that blueprint. Is the blueprint covering that you'll be developing? What do you expect it'll cover, from sort of project initiation to solutions implemented and being able to gauge the success of the whole initiatives, or is it stopping somewhere in between? I just want to get the scale of what that blueprint will cover.
Thanks, Dominic. And whoever answers this, you've got 30 seconds.
I guess what I'll say is the output right now is a report at the end. So we mine it. It does include going to the process owner, the stakeholders, procuring the data access, mining it, analyzing it, and then right now it's performing either a report, or it might be if the data is not sufficient, we might produce a gap analysis saying, hey, you're not recording key events in certain areas. Go modify your system to record that data, and we'll rerun the process mining in the future.
Brilliant, guys. Our time is up. Thank you so much to the team. Thank you for kicking us off with a great presentation. Judges, thank you for your questions. Team, you can now leave us. Thank you so much.